There's one constant in real estate though. It's constantly changing. So why not get really good, and I'm biased to the creative space, because why not get really good at knowing how to pivot like you just alluded to. So I'm going to be in the market all the time. I don't care if it's up, down, or sideways. What I'm going to do is know what pond to fish in. That's all. When the market's screaming hot, am I going to be getting a lot of my leads from for sale by owners? No, they're going to be selling, just like March of 2020 when they all realized they could sell. But am I going to deal with mostly off-market properties in a screaming hot market? Yes. So it just depends on what the market's doing, to your point. But creative will capture all of that. In fact, the more the media screams and the more the sellers and buyers are confused, the more we're needed as a guide.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cashflow Podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host. I'm so glad to have you back listening to the show. We got a great guest today, Chris Prefontaine. We call him Chris Pre. Chris and I have known each other for easily probably 7-8 years now. And Chris has been on the podcast before, but I'm telling you guys that this is a very overdue repeat, because the guy is a wealth of knowledge and value. He's a regular salty odor kind of person, actually preaches what he teaches and does what he teaches. So this is the kind of guy you want to listen to. He's not just a theorist. He's not just a lecturer. He actually is hands-on. So Chris, first of all, man, thanks for doing it, because I know you. I know how busy you are. So I know we're lucky to have you on the show today, man.
I like hanging out, and I really appreciate you having me back, Gary. So likewise.
You got it, man. So in any case, if you could, for those we've got a lot of new people on the last couple of years. I mean, it's now, I think we're in like 50 different countries now, but kind of give everybody a little bit of background, because we all come to this from a different point of view. Like I was in IT, in banking, and here I am. I'm the furthest thing from that now. So what was it that got you into this? What was the tipping point or the inspiration?
Yeah, I've been in real estate this fall, like this month, 34 years, hard to believe. And the tipping point for me was the 2008 crash. I call it the 2008 debacle in my book, because up to that point, like so many, and you and I have talked about this, I was an agent, then I was a builder first, then I was an agent, then I was teaching agents. But the fact is, when I ran into the crash, I had a bunch of properties that I was personally signed on, and I learned the hard way what that means, trying to work out of that. And so I set up a bunch of rules that were just personal. Like, okay, I had my head in the sand for 4 years because I got beat up so badly. But when I was coming out of that and everybody said, no, just get back at it, I said, okay, well, then there's going to be some guidelines. The guidelines are, I'm not going to sign personally on bank loans anymore. I'm not going to use gobs of my own cash. And I'm not going to do deals where it's just do a deal, get paid, like a treadmill, transactional. Right. Because I remember, when I was building homes, and even as an agent, I was doing 100 homes a year, and I'd get to January and I'd go, man, I got to do this all over again. Like it was just kind of like a depressing January every year. So we trademarked, because of that, getting paid 3 ways. It's called the 3 paydays on our deals. So that was like, to answer your direct question, what the push over the edge was. I was in my 17th or 18th year at that point. It wasn't like I was new. I just never picked my head up to say, what is creative real estate, right? And so that's what buying on terms means in a nutshell. I can go back to any part of that, but I don't want to bore everybody with 34 years. So
yeah, I know. It's hard to believe this January will literally be my 40th year since I got my first property. I'm like, I can't even believe it. I mean, I still wake up just as excited today as I did all those years. I mean, I just love it. I love what I do,
Same.
Well, let's talk about what's working out in the marketplace now. And over the years, you and I have seen all kinds of strategies come and go. And I want to tell everybody listening, listen, guys, it all works. Everything that you can be taught will work if you work it. Now, there's different strategies for different times, like back when I first started, we had to assume mortgages because the mortgage rates were still 13, 14%, coming down from 18 to 21%. That was just normal at that time. Nowadays, maybe you don't need to assume a mortgage, but it's still a good strategy. So in your opinion, Chris, so we came through the pandemic years. We saw rapid price increases followed by interest rate increases in the conventional world. But what kind of strategies can you come up with, one or two that were really your go-to strategies for that kind of environment?
Yeah, the two that come to mind, we were talking a little bit off air, are not in priority order. Just one is we look for free and clear properties. Why? One, they're usually off market. Two, presumably if they didn't already pull out cash with some kind of a home equity or other loan, if it's commercial, then they don't need, quote unquote, need the money, but they usually want the best price if they're going to sell. So why do I like dealing with them? Two reasons. One, that what I said, they don't need the money, but two, we usually structure, with very few exceptions, we structure these deals with the free and clear property owners with 0% interest. So the monthly principal only payments.
Hmm.
And just think about that for a second. I don't care what interest rate environment you're in, zero is better. And
Yeah.
so, talk about a recession hedge, so to speak. That's what I look at it as. If I'm paying down, we had an oceanfront home, for example, a Cape Cod area, where we paid down the principal for like 4 years at $2,500 a month. That's 30 grand a year. So forget what the market does, forget what I market up, forget all that other stuff, forget depreciation. You got, 30 grand a year coming off of principal. So that's why I love that.
Right.
The second sort of thing that I like, especially now, but I don't think it'll ever get old, and that is you still have, I don't have the stats in front of me, enormous amount of properties in the twos, threes, fours, and fives interest rates.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
why not talk to them on market or off? I like off market and see if we can go ahead and purchase those properties subject to the existing loan staying in place. So not assuming, subject to, because
Yep.
I don't want to go on any loans personally. And you
Right.
mentioned the pandemic. Let me say this. The difference mentally and stress wise going into the 2008 crash when I was on every loan personally and going into COVID with, I think we had as a family team, forget the community, we had about
Right.
76 residential, forget the other properties, and not one single solitary loan were we on personally. Well, that's a different feeling, right? You are
Right.
totally in the driver's seat. So that's why I love the subject to existing loans in the free and clear.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, if you could go ahead and dive into the subject too, because assumable, most people know what that means. For those of you who don't, basically what it means, guys, is you go through a process. What this is nowadays. In the old days, you didn't even have to qualify to assume a mortgage. I mean, my first mortgage I assumed was a VA mortgage. I just signed a piece of paper, and that was essentially it. And but nowadays, if people have this misconception, well, you can't assume mortgages anymore. Well, you certainly can. Almost, well, I shouldn't say most commercial mortgages, which are variable rate mortgages, are assumable. You just have to ask for it. On the residential side, VA, FHA, USDA, all three 100% assumable. You just have to qualify like you would for your own mortgage. But that's not what we're talking about. Subject to is something different. So, Chris, I'm going to let you turn it back to you and kind of go into the subject to so people understand the mechanics of it, why it's different, and why it's so preferable.
Yeah, so subject to, let me use an example again. I think that's best. So we find a couple, also coincidentally down by the Cape Cod area, and they were in a divorce, not amicable. One on the deed, one on the mortgage, fighting. So my son-in-law actually put that deal together, and he had to call them and chat with them. And what we ended up doing is we bought the property. So the property transfers to our LLC or land trust. I'm not going to get into legal stuff. I'm not an attorney. But the loan stayed in, I forget if it was the husband or wife. I think the wife had the loan and he had the deed. The loan stayed in the wife's name. So
Mm-hmm.
she's the guarantor on that loan, not us. We make payments from then forward on their behalf, but we are never signing personally or assuming that loan. Now, that deal recently cashed out, but we had that house for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years, all through the pandemic. And their interest rate was, I think it was high twos or low threes.
Nice.
So the property transfer, short answer, the loan stays in the original guarantor's name. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Now, what's the so people are starting to think now because I have this happen all the time when this comes up. Like, what's the key benefit to the seller, and
Yeah.
what's the key risk to the seller? And then we can talk about the buyer class investor key
Yeah.
benefit, key risk. And people understand why it's so. When they understand it, it makes so much sense.
Well, yes, 100%. Good question. So I think it's important to note in creative financing, especially creative real estate, what are we doing? We're not convincing sellers. We're not, it's like you and I going to the dentist, auto body, doctor, you name it, attorney. What are they doing? They don't convince you. You give them what you're trying to accomplish or a challenge and they fix it, right? Okay,
Hmm.
so think about that couple. They needed financial relief. They were $4,100 in arrears. I left that out of the story. So they were fighting. Eventually, where's that property going? It's going to get foreclosed on. And
Yeah.
now the credit of the woman who's on the loan is going to get haunted for 7 years, as you know. Okay,
Yeah.
so we fix that by starting to make the payments after just her too late. So figure, I don't know, 6 months in, the bank sees her as a good credit risk now. Instead of, so
Yeah.
she had 6 months of headache instead of 7 years. Now,
Yeah.
compare that to the free and clear owner I just talked about earlier. You're talking about two different avatars here,
Oh, yeah.
right? Totally, entirely different. So when I'm talking sub two, not always, but usually it's to solve a problem. With a free and
Mhm.
clear, it's to help them accomplish a goal the market's not helping them accomplish, not a problem. So the two different
Mhm.
avatars. Did I answer that on the seller side?
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the other things too is, and guys, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, but I mean I have been doing this for quite a long time. So this you can look this up. But what a lot of people do when they buy subject to is they'll put the have the current owner put the property in just a simple land trust, and then you can take over the payments. And so even if the mortgage was not even assumable, it doesn't matter because there's legislation and you can look this up, that says any loan, any property inside of a trust, the lender cannot call that note due unless it's through default. And you can't, if somebody's paying a mortgage, there's nothing you can do about it. It's gonna get foreclosed on. But in a subject to it, in a trust, you can take over the payments, like Chris was describing here, for on behalf of the seller, and there's not a thing the bank can do about it as long as the payments are being made. So it's a huge way. There's other benefits and features, but that's one of the key ones. And it actually for both parties, I think, because for you and I, Chris, as investors, I agree with you. The less paper floating around with my name on it, the better, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And then it is a win-win. I mean, creative real estate, unlike, and I'm not sort of downplaying any other than niches. I have friends in almost every niche, right? They're on my podcast. But the fact is, our niche is the, I think, the healthiest sort of win-win, because we don't go out and try to get properties for 60 or 70 cents on the dollar. We don't have to. We can pay full price if we get our term. I bought a commercial building, Gary, I gave him his list price. We put our companies in this building. I've since sold it. But why do we do that? He wanted owner financing for estate and tax planning reasons, right? So again, we're always trying to either solve a problem or help them accomplish something the market's not doing. That's it. That's it. And you don't have to convince anyone.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Now let me ask you this. So, as far as strategy goes and outcome, clearly we're solving a problem. That's what you're exactly right. And if you look at the world, and the more the world evolves, guys, the person that is better at solving problems is generally going to make more money. People will pay to take care of the pain far more than they will pay to prevent it to begin with. Just a classic piece of human nature. So, in any case, so within that context, like, why would we apply a subject to strategy to invest? I mean, are we looking to keep the property, cash flow it, depreciate it, then sell it, or are we looking to simply, flip it, like make some remodeling improvements and flip it? I mean, what are some of the things that you guys have been involved in there that subject to allowed you to accomplish?
Well, for us, it's two things. Again, I'm not an accountant or attorney either, and everybody has a different strategy because where they are in life might mean they need cash flow now or not. So,
Mhm.
but for us, it's one of two exits. It's hold it to rent, which is not our preferred, but we do hand pick some. Like the one I just explained, the tenant buyer, we call them because they were going to be a rent own. They, during COVID, just couldn't pull it off. It was actually an attorney. So
Yeah,
we rented it to her for years, and then we just sold it off. So we were able to capture that appreciation in the market, which was insane. Um,
yeah,
but most of our exits are going to be one of two things: rent to
mhm.
own or owner financing with the buyer. So it's
Okay,
going to be terms of, a low of a couple of years to a high of 10 years.
yeah,
Just depends. And it depends where, like I said earlier, like if I have a student, a member of our community that goes, hey, I just left my job, like I got a cash flow stuff, then I'm going to say,
mhm.
okay, access the 3 paydays, do the rent own. If someone says, hey, I've done 15 deals because I'm good, maybe we do some buy and hold, but it just depends on the person.
Yeah. Well, a couple things are around there. So with the prior example you gave with the attorney, um, pandemic years, it wasn't a good time for her to be doing this. The reality is you became her best creditor. She's paying you regular payments. So at the end of the year, the property goes up in value. She's got a solid year of making payments on a substantial, essentially a debt. You're a creditor for her. People might not see renting as debt, but contractually it actually is. So you just agreed to pay somebody whatever $12,000 over the next year or
Yep.
24,000 over the next year, and you do that, then you become her best creditor. So you help her solve that problem too. You get a good deal out of it and make more money. Um, Now, on the other one, on the rentals, this is one of the things that's happened to me, Chris, over the years is when I first started, it was all traditional rentals. I mean, I'm just renting out to the families and the singles and the couples and did that for decades. And quite frankly, it's what got me where I am today. But after a while, see, my mindset shifted partly because I'm aging and I want to increase upside potential and reduce downside risk. So I started looking at the traditional rental market and legislation that was coming out in key states, like Canada too, by the way, in places like California, New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, were getting real tough on owners. The laws were leaning far more towards the tenants and away from the owners. So I thought, I'm gonna address that. And we Airbnb was a big thing, and it still is. I mean, it's huge. But the midterm rentals was like the answer because nobody was paying attention to it. We started renting for 3, 6, 9 months to athletes who were playing for the New England Patriots, but they still wanted to keep their house in San Diego. Oil and gas, high tech, medicine, government, and of course, business executives. And if I didn't say medical, I wanted to say medical too. Those are key industries where people are getting solid paychecks. Their employers often pay their rent, and you're getting two or more times the monthly rents because you're renting for short term. They don't come with their kids and dogs. They go home on the weekends, and you have to furnish it, of course. But there's little wear and tear. There's less turnover in their Airbnb, and the laws are in your favor. You're not getting, if you have to take somebody to court and they bring in their wife and the kids, you're going to be on the losing end of that court case if you're in the case of a rent collection. Here we don't have to worry about that. It just we dramatically reduce the downside risk and really increase the upside potential. So. But the short term is always better because velocity is actually. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like the speed at which we get a return on investment. How important is that? How fast we turn over our capital?
Well, if you look at what we do, Gary, you take okay. So for an owner financing house, we usually put no money down, but because we put no money down, we have to pay transfer tax. So say it's a few grand. On our lease purchase deals, we put $10 down. It's built into the agreement. So I'm giving you that as a prelude to your answer because. The return can be infinite. We create 3 paydays that average around the country 45 grand to a high of 350 grand, and we put down between 0 and say 2 grand. Well, that's a pretty good return on investment. But again, the 3 paydays act as what? They act as cash now, like people are used to in real estate, but then cash flow monthly once you launch a new deal, and then cash flow long term. So it's not only great return, it's a varied quality of income. It's not that treadmill I talked about, like, okay, I build a house, I get paid. I get paid very well. Back in the early 90s. But the fact is, I'm better off with cash now, cash over time, and cash long term. That, by the way, is a good business model if you and I open a restaurant tomorrow, right? Any model. That works.
Yeah. You're getting paid in multiple ways, and that's what I've always liked about your guys' strategy. And I think I met your son-in-law too. In fact, I think I had him on my podcast. I did actually. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds like he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
This is. I love these kind of podcasts. So, in any case, all right. Let's go into going forward. We just saw the Fed lower rates a little bit. Rates were already dropping on their own. Then he went back up a wee bit because of the bond market. Rates are coming down again. So more consumers are starting to feel more confident. My feeling is. And I would never call myself an expert, but I do follow people like at Goldman Sachs, and those are, what they generally are correct. Most of the really good money people are saying 2026 was going to be a pretty awesome year for U.S. economy. And you got the detractors on the other side, but you know what? That's fine. I tend to think positive, and I go with the people that have the track record, and I'm prepared for that. And as an investor, right now, to me, it feels kind of soft because a lot of the traditional buyers have gotten out of the marketplace. They just, you raise the prices and you raise the cost of money. It's supply and demand, man. You can't, the demand diminishes, so the supply increases. So that's why I like those. But I always tell people, it really doesn't matter to me so much what the economy is doing. What matters is if I understand what it's doing, because then I know what strategy to apply. So that's what I'm getting at. Do you see any other strategy going forward? If we go into a booming, a continuing of this bull market, or not? I mean, if some things just work no matter what. Mhm.
Yeah, you kind of hit upon a few things that I talk about with creative. It doesn't really matter what's going on. You and I don't know, the billionaires don't know. No, we can all predict, but we don't know what's going to happen to a few of your points. So there's one constant in real estate though. It's constantly changing. So why not get really good? And I'm biased to the creative space because why not get really good at knowing how to pivot like you just alluded to? So I'm going to be in the market all the time. I don't care if it's up, down, or sideways. What I'm going to do is know what pond to fish in. That's all. When the market's screaming hot, am I going to be getting a lot of my leads from for sale by owners? No, they're going to be selling just like March of 2020 when they all still
Right.
realized they could sell. But am I going to deal with mostly off-market properties in a screaming hot market? Yes. So it just depends on what the market's doing, to your point. But creative will capture all of that. In
Yeah.
fact, the more the media screams and the more the sellers and buyers are confused, the more we're needed as a guide in the creative
Yeah.
space. And that's why I love it so much. Because so I'll always operate. It's a matter of what pond we're fishing in.
Hey there, did you know you can join a free real estate mastermind session every Monday night? It's called Monday Night Live and it kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm Gary Wilson, and every week I host this live class, joined by investor agents from across the country and around the world. And here's the best part, no selling, no recruiting, just pure, actionable real estate education. Every Monday, we cover everything from the basics to advanced strategies. We even bring in expert guests once or twice a month. Topics like how to buy property using crypto, how AI is reshaping the real estate landscape, what the metaverse and blockchain mean for real estate deals today. Whether you're a new investor or a seasoned pro, you'll walk away with real value and you'll have the chance to ask questions live, connect with others, and expand your network. Sound good? Then head over to realestatewithgarywilson.com. Click the Resources tab, select Monday Night Live, and you'll find recent replays plus a full schedule. You can register for any upcoming session, even weeks in advance. And if you're watching this on social media, just check the video description for the direct registration link. I'll see you Monday night. Bring your questions, your notepad, and your drive to grow. I look forward to connecting with you.
And let's talk about geography. There's lots of tools out there. I mean, the beautiful thing about today's world is we have technology and information available to us that we didn't even have 5 years ago, let alone 10 or 20 years ago.
Right.
So it's easier for us to gather the data to know what markets have the greatest potential, greatest upside potential. But where you are geographically, do you tend to stay in the New England area, or do you have contacts, people that your students that you're working with across the country that help? Like, do you also invest in Indiana and
Yeah.
Arizona, places like that?
So our family business is out of New England, to your point. So we buy readily Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts. However, our community is in 80 markets right now. And then so we're helping do deals and we rev share with their deals, but also, and that's the best way to learn, right? We're doing it with them. But also
Right.
there are people outside our community who go, hey, I heard about you guys. I kind of don't want to be in your community. I got this going on over here, but I have a deal. So that's another family company we do deals. Like we just bought a house in Florida. We have one in Colorado. So we will delve outside of our own area in addition to going outside our area with students. We do both. Some niches, as you know, Gary, like some apartment, especially large apartment buildings, they will niche geographically. We don't have to because most of our stuff is going to be in the residential side, and there's a plethora of properties. I don't care. Like within a 50-mile radius of every single person in our community, they can usually accomplish all their goals. Not
Yeah.
always if they're not out in the outskirts, but mostly people can.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Your students, I ended up, my business kept morphing over the years because it just was going with where I saw the biggest need, and a lot of it had to do with the agents not really being educated in the area of investing. That was always there was a big divide between investor and agent. And I thought, I'm tired of because I got frustrated. That's why I got my license,
Yeah.
So I decided I'm going to solve it. And we've been chipping away at that ever since. And now you see the results. But how do you work with your students? You mentioned, rev share. Can you describe one of those, like a typical example of one of your students getting a property you guys participated? I want everybody to hear this because I want them to realize, there's opportunity for everybody out there. You just have to look for people like you, Chris, and raise your hand and ask. And so go ahead and kind of take it from there, if you don't mind. Talk about one of your students and one of their projects, maybe.
Well, what sparked this conversation we're having right now is the fact that way worse than when I started this company 12 years ago, way worse, is the onslaught of social media and people marketing to all of us that's get rich quick tomorrow, right? They give you the fluffy and flowery and everything feels good, but then you go out in the real world and life happens and the deals are hard and then you quit because you're frustrated. So we said, all right, we need an interactive approach. This is a decade ago where you come in and yeah, you learn the course, but we don't send you off with the course, go, good luck. You should be able to do this on your own. We say, if you're serious, let's lock arms. Let's revenue share, and there's different levels of revenue share in our company. Let's revenue share in all your deals so that when the curveballs come up, because they do, you know that, like every week it's different. That's why you and I are still here. We don't get bored. So they'll come to us and go, oh man, this happened to my seller, or this happened to the buyer, or this happened to the property. What do I do? And I'm not saying we've seen absolutely everything, but in 34 years, I've seen a lot. And now in our community, we're up to 95 years experience with our coaches. We just brought on a new coach with over 20 years experience. So that's pretty cool to know. So the revenue share, you said, to give example, they range from 50-50 student and us to 70 student, 30 us. And once in a while, I'll come up with a special club or whatnot that works with me privately, and they keep most of the money. It comes with a higher price tag, but they keep most of their money. So that interactive approach, in my opinion, is the best approach to learn.
Okay. So now when it comes to the like the who's playing what roles, so do you have them be the, like, you're the guide and they're the hero, so they're executing all the steps in the project plan and you're guiding them, or do you play more of an active role? Or
yeah, so we're really, on paper, we're a consultant. It's their LLC or their trust. It's their deal. They depreciate, they get all the benefits. We just get a piece of the payday 1, 2s, and 3s, and we're a consultant, really. That's what it is contractually. So they'll when they're brand new, do they need us on the phone to lean on for credibility? Yeah. When they're brand new, do they need us on the phone to lean on for scripts in general? Yeah. So the coaches will do some of the calls with them, for them originally, then with them, and then slowly but surely cut the tie, right? Not cut, but let them do the calls, and then they're listening. So it just takes over time that happens. We do call critiques for hours upon hours, hundreds of hours of call critiques. So we make the students go through their calls, and we go through them with them.
Excellent. I love that. So and these are live calls. It's not like role playing. You're actual live calls.
Oh yeah, live calls. Yeah, we do both, but live calls.
Yeah, we do the same thing. We do it a couple times a day, and people can jump on depending on what time zone they're in. And we'll lead by example, and then we'll hit mute, and then we want to hear what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's a learn by doing
Best
business.
way to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just on the job training. You can, and here's what's crazy: the pandemic years taught everybody that you can run a business from anywhere. You don't need to have an office downtown.
Right.
But it also created a downside, and that is, I think a lot of people have gotten too comfortable staying at home, being on the computer. I mean, the podcast and my classes, obviously they have to be, but I tell people every day, look, you need to be out there. You need to be seen. The highest probability of a conversion rate is you being directly with somebody. And if not, the next best thing is a live phone call, not texting, emailing, Facebook messaging, that all that stuff you do, but that's on the outer fringes of your.
Yeah. Too many people hide behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've been telling everybody, look, get out there, create your own club. If you don't want to create one, join one. Join a couple clubs. Go to events. I mean, it's just decisions are made when people get together. Okay. Too easy to say, I'll get to it tomorrow when you're sitting behind a computer. So any case, all right, now I know we're going to get short on time here real quick, but how can people get a hold of you? Like, what if someone that wants to work with you as a student, what does that look like? What's the what's the protocol, I guess, so to speak,
Yeah, I'm big on free, Gary, because of what I said earlier, where everybody's just kind of marketing a bunch of junk to everybody. So I want to do this for your students to answer that question. They can get the free books, and it's not one of those free book offers where they got to put in money for shipping. That's not free. This is really free. So go to wickedsmartbooks.com. That's wickedsmartbooks.com/Gary. And that way we'll honor that. Secondly, for some more free, they can just check out my workshop. It's a 28 minutes or so, but nobody's bugging you. It's on your time, and you can get that at smartrealestatecoach.com/masters class. And that way you're not pressured. You're not getting marketed to. You say, hey, I saw those and I'm not interested in looking further, or hey, I saw mine and I'd like to chat. And we're happy to chat with you. There'll be plenty of ways to get us, by the way, in those links.
Okay. And that's masters, like plural, masters class?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so everybody listen, if you're driving, don't worry. You don't try to write this down while you're driving. We're going to have it in the show notes for you. Okay, so you can go to that after the pod. You'll know the podcast is published because you'll be listening to it. So it's wickedsmart.com/Gary.
Yep.
And then I didn't write the sentence. Is it also Wicked Smart?
No, smartrealestatecoach.com /masters class.
Or real estate coach. There we go. .com. Okay. All right, good. So I'm going to read that one again. smartrealestatecoach.com /masters class.
You got it.
And wickedsmartbook.com /Gary. And for everybody listening, consider yourself blessed. This was your lucky day to meet Chris. Like I said, I've known him for quite a while. We were introduced from one of our respective coaches that we had. And it was one of the best introductions I've ever had. So it's one I fully endorse. So go to the 2 websites, reach out to Chris, check it out. Just start by reading and studying. Remember, our formula for success is this. Success is the result on the other side of the equal sign of this equation. Education is number 1. You got to have the right education. And if you go to Chris, you're going to get the right education. And the cool thing about the right education is it also shows you how to get and use the right information. Number 2. So information plus education. The third variable is you taking action. So education plus information plus action equals results. It's hands-on. It's on-the-job training. You got to find the right people to work with. Like Chris said, I've been to dozens and dozens and dozens of events, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the best I've ever seen are the guys that actually roll up their sleeves, swim over to your side of the river, and bring you back with them instead of hollering at you from a stage saying, you know what, it's $50,000 and you can, just start small, start with the book, start there, and then make your decisions wisely going forward. I think you'll find yourself in the right camp here with Chris. So, Chris, thanks again, man.
Thank you.
Everybody listening, leave a review. Your reviews are our currency. Sorry, Chris. Any final words of wisdom for everybody?
No. You're good. Very, very much appreciate being on. And as we talked about earlier, we'll definitely reconnect and get some things going for both communities.
You got it, man. Well, I'll be back up there easily next summer. I'm going to be going to Quebec.
Nice.
Going up through Maine, Quebec, then Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland, and got plenty of contacts in Massachusetts. Worcester is one of my favorite areas now because when I first went there, you couldn't give the places away. Now people are fighting over each other, buying in Worcester.
Yeah, it's busy again. Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. Listen, you take care of yourself.
You too,
Listeners,
buddy.
take care of yourselves. God bless you and your loved ones, and we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cashflow Podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cashflow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.